Hello. All right. First people are joining. Yes. Nice. Okay. As always, please let me know if there are any issues with the microphone or um, the video at the beginning. Hello. Oh yes, I see a lot of people are joining. A lot of excitement around um, this update and this stream, which is very cool. Um, yes, hello. Um, yes, the hype is real. Um, yeah, I mean, this is gonna be an interesting stream. As I already mentioned in the last stream that we spoke about, this is gonna be long. So I mean, I expect it to be long. Uh, so the idea here is basically I'm gonna take a moment first to talk about the update as a whole, and then we're gonna essentially go through every army from Grimdark Future, and have a quick overview of like what is new and what is up. So I expect this stream to be really long because um, just imagine if it takes 5 minutes per army. Then you're looking at, oh god, let me do the math. It's like over 25 armies. That's already like almost a 3-hour stream. If we take 10 minutes per army, that's already like a 4-hour stream. So this might be a really long stream. I'm gonna try and speed run. But yes, this might be long. So there might be breaks, there might be snacks, there might be drinks, there might be whatever. Um, so yes, get ready for a long stream if you're here for the long haul. I do have water. Somebody asked. I have it in my beautiful Sailor Moon cup, and I have a little snack as well. I have a little thing here, and I even have a banana, and I even have some candy if I really am, struggling. But yes, so I expect this to be a relatively long stream, and yeah, I mean, I guess without further ado, let's just start straight into it and talk about the update as a whole. So for those that don't know, I'm opening some notes. For those that don't know, so v3.5 is our yearly update. We have recently switched to doing. Actually, this is the first time we went a full year without proper like a complete game update. Yeah, and so yeah, usually in September we do a yearly update, and now it's time for v3.5. We've been on v3.4 for this year. It went pretty well. I mean, it went really well actually. People enjoyed it. We added a bunch of new content last year, and so this year we are focusing on armies. Why are we doing this update? Or well, we're doing this update because every year we do an update, of course, to keep the game up to date. But why are we doing this update about armies specifically? So there are two main reasons why I'm updating the army. So one of them is that for a long time, some of the feedback that we got from people is like, hey, I like OPR, it's a cool game and whatnot. But, as I play more and more armies, I feel like all armies kind of feel the same. And I can understand that feeling, sure, different armies have access to different types of units and different weapons and some different special rules here and there. But a lot of the armies all just, take the same stuff from the same tool set. And so they kind of feel samey. And also, the second point is that some armies don't feel as samey as the others, and they have a lot more toys to play with, and it ends up feeling like some armies get more love than others. And players also complain about that because, understandably, it's like if you play certain armies, it's like, okay, oh, you get an army special rule, and you get like another, like a specialty thing, and you get a special weapon rule, and you get lots of heroes and spells, and lots of cool stuff. And then you play some other army that's like nothing. You really don't get anything but bare bones units and weapons, and so yeah, it doesn't feel really nice. So yeah, the main two concerns we are trying to address is armies feeling the same, and some armies feeling like they get less love than others. So by the end of this patch, this update, all armies should be, at a good point. All armies should be fun. All armies should feel relatively different to play when you play them against each other. Of course, as always, we maintain and retain the OPR spirit of things. Um, things are meant to be simple, things are meant to be fast, easy, and so on and so forth. And also, whilst yes, Some armies have rules that work a bit different than others. Nothing is like super different where it's like, okay, when you play this army, it's like you're playing a different game than when you play that other army. So overall, if you've been playing OPR for a while, this update basically is going to give you a bunch of new goodies, but you're playing the same game with the same armies, right? Um, okay, so when we decided to do this update, it was a lot of work. Let me tell you, it was a lot of work because we're updating all of Grimdark Future and all of Age of Fantasy, and that meant going through thousands of things. But one of the first things that I did is basically I kind of looked at all the armies, and I kind of tried to basically understand or how do I say it? Uh, Discern, recognize, whatever. Find out basically what are specifically the things that some armies get that are cool that would be nice to give to every army so every army feels cool. And so here I basically, have the big seven. And these are the seven things that are coming to every army that some armies already have. So these are all things that are already in the game, but now they're being spread across all the armies. And yeah, so the armies are going to get them new. What are these seven things? So number one, it's a army special rule. So basically, some armies, if you play them right now, I'm going to use only Grimdark Future examples for this stream. For example, if you are playing an army like the Blessed Sisters, every unit in the Blessed Sisters gets devout. And so when you play the Blessed Sisters, it feels like a cohesive army, right? Because every unit has at least one thing in common. And so it feels like, okay, you have a certain nudge towards a certain playstyle. The second thing is rules combos. So some armies have abilities that basically can be used to enhance your army special rule. For example, if you're playing Starhost, which have their army special rule, which is Predator, which basically almost every unit has Predator, then you have some units that have something called Primal Roar, which basically means you pick a unit with Predator and then they get a boosted version of Predator. So that's an army combo. So it's a cool way where two units can interact to boost their power. The third thing is army specialties. Army specialties are special rules that some units get that allow you to do something cool. So a good example here is the Dow Union, right? The Dow Union have spotting lasers. That's kind of a pretty unique rule for their army. And so when you're playing Dow, it's like, okay, you have this one tool that other armies or most other armies don't get. And that feels cool and gives you, again, interesting interactions with your army. The fourth thing is what we're calling marks. Marks are basically rules that allow you to pick an enemy unit, and then your units get a special rule when they're interacting with them. So a good example here is from the Snatcher Cults. They have a rule called Survey Vehicle, where basically you pick an enemy unit and other units get, I think, +1 to hit against it. So again, an interesting way to interact with enemy units. So if your combos interact with your own units, your marks interact with enemy units. Then we have weapon special rules. So right now, for example, the Machine Cult get the Phosphorus rule. And so basically, some armies get a cool weapon special rule that only they have, and that again gives them something that feels cool. It's like, oh, their weapons do this thing. And so now every army also has their own weapon special rule. The last two things are hero auras and spells. So hero auras, basically, the way that it works in OPR, as you may or may not know, is that you have heroes, and your heroes can pick an aura, or like they can become a caster, or they can become a commander, or a general, or whatever. And based on what they pick, they and their unit get some special rule. And right now, there are lots of armies that have 2, 3 auras, and there are armies that have maybe one, and there are armies that have 5 or 6. And some armies feel better than others because they have access to more tools. And so now we made sure that every army has at least 5 auras, plus caster, plus army center bears, whatever they have, so that you have lots of cool toys to play with. And finally, spells. In the current version of v3.4, basically every army just picks the same spells from the same little pool of spells. And with this new update, we wanted to make sure that about 50% of the spells are still coming from this common pool, but 50% of the spells you get are specifically for your army. So only your army gets those spells, which again makes your spell lists feel cool and feel unique. So now when you're going to play an army, when you play two different, like an army against the other, it's like, okay, well, my army has a different army rule than yours, has a different combo than yours, has different army specialty than yours, has a different mark, has a different weapon special rule, has different hero auras, and has different spells. So now, again, even though overall, it's still OPR and everything, works it feels more like, okay, my army leans on this gameplay style, your army leans more on that gameplay style, and then you can adapt using your different heroes and auras and spells to then further, mold the army to your own playstyle. When doing this, one of the big things that I had to do was one of the issues that also happens right now is that most armies, especially when it comes to like hero auras and spells, most armies kind of always have the same auras. Like most armies have a furious aura, and most armies have maybe a advanced tactics aura, or maybe something like that. And so what I did is basically I picked all the rules from the whole game and I scattered them across all the armies, which means that now not only does every army have at least 5 auras, also the types of auras you see on different armies are going to be very different. So don't expect that every army has access to Furious, but they might have something similar. So maybe one army has a Furious aura, and another army has maybe they get Rending in melee, and another army has a Slayer in melee, or something like that. So they retain, for example, an aura that is about melee, but it's not always Furious everywhere, for example. So now everything is more spread out, and that's probably one of like the bigger differences you might spot in your own army, where it's like, okay, you were used to having certain auras, and now you will have more, and they're going to be different. Okay, what else? Then let's talk about special rules naming. So when reworking everything, I basically realized that when you're working with so many armies and so many things, and then there's also creators that make their own armies, and fans that make their own armies, I kind of realized that right now the way that special rules are named, many special rules are named, are too specific. And so we have changed a lot of special rules named to be a bit more generic, so that they're more usable across armies. So for example, before we had a special rule called Devour, right? And now I think it's called Bash. So before, if it was Devour, well, you could only give it to certain units that feel like they devour. But Bash, you can put on a lot more units, because anything can really like bash something else, right? And so it's this type of stuff. So we've made rules a little bit more generic, so that they're more usable across armies. And with this also, one of the big things that we decided is that at least for the official armies, we are removing aliasing. On basically 99% of the rules, we've removed the alias, and some army special rules are alias, so they have like a cool special army name, but otherwise most armies use like the standard naming convention. Why are we doing this? So right now, a lot of the times what happens is you will have a hero, and your hero will say, I have a rule called, I don't know, cool marching order. I don't know. And then I don't know your army, and so then I'm gonna ask you, okay, what does cool marching order do? And then you're like, okay, actually it means like this hero and its unit get fast. And I'm like, wait, so it's an aura fast? And it's like, yeah, okay. So then I'm like, oh, but then it's kind of like this other rule, and it's like, yeah, it's this other rule, but it just has a different name. And it's like, why are we playing this game where we're just trying to figure out the different namings? So if you have a rule that's a fast aura, it's just gonna be called fast aura. It's just gonna be always called the same thing. That way, when you're scanning through armies, it's very easy to understand. Like, okay, I know that rule. I know that rule. I know that rule. And if there's something new, you learn that rule, and then it will apply to all the armies. And you don't read every army, and it's like the same, 5 rules just rewritten with different names. As part of this, actually, I've also introduced a naming system. I don't know what to call it. A pattern of how rules are named, which is for your convenience. So basically, now when you have certain types of rules, they always have the same effect. Let me explain. So for example, I've been talking about auras. So an aura always means this model and its unit get X. And that's always going to be called an X aura. What do you mean with X aura? So a fast aura is this model and its unit gets fast. If it's a fearless aura, it's this model and its unit get fearless. If it's a rending in melee aura, it's this model and its unit get rending in melee. So now you don't even have to read the actual rule. As long as you know the title, the name of the rule, you kind of understand what it does. There are not so many of these patterns, but there are a couple. So there's auras, There is buffs. A buff is always once per activation, pick one friendly unit within 12 inches, which gets X. So a stealth buff means one friendly unit within 12 inches gets stealth. A fearless buff means right, and so again, you now know the pattern, and now you can just understand it. So there's like 4 common ones, which is auras, buffs, debuffs, and marks. And those are like your basic ones that you see most everywhere. And then there's a couple of other like naming conventions that you will spot. They're a bit more rare, so it depends on the army that you play. So we're not going to go over them right now. Okay, that's the naming system. Let's talk about general balance updates. So this is a couple of things that I wanted to highlight before we get into the actual armies. So we are removing army-wide undead. We are removing army-wide robot, army-wide no retreat. Any alias of the undead rule is being removed from as an army-wide rule. This is very simple. Basically, it's a very contentious rule, and what we realized is like if you're a beginner player, you hate the rule because the rule basically means every time your unit takes a morale test, half of your models die, and you hate it. If you are a tournament player, like a really advanced player, you love the rule because that rule means you never get shaken. So it means you can block objectives forever. So it kind of has this dichotomy where like it breaks the game for both sides, and it doesn't break the game, but it makes the game kind of not as pleasant for both sides. So they've been removed as army-wide rules, but armies that used to have undead as an army-wide rule generally now have it as a hero aura. So if you like your robot legions with undead, which is now called no retreat, you see again a rule that has become more generic, then you can get a hero with a no retreat aura. But of course then it becomes more limited because you don't have it on every unit, you're not going to have it on vehicles and stuff like that. Then we are also removing rending and poison, which has now been renamed to Bane to be a bit more generic. We are removing them as army-wide weapon rules. Basically, this affects mostly, I think, robot legions and elves, the various elf factions, which had like rending and poison as like on every model in their army, basically, or every unit in their army. And we're basically removing it because it just means that when you're facing an army like that, it just invalidates all types of regeneration, and then it's kind of like it's just too hard of a counter where it's just like, oh, I'm fighting robot legions. Well, then why would I even take regenerations, right? Everybody has rending. So we are removing rending and poison as army-wide special rules, as army-wide weapon rules, and instead those armies, of course, get their own weapon rule now. Then aircraft is being tweaked. We are removing the -1 to hit on aircraft. You still have the -12 inches range to aircraft. This is because people have found that aircraft is a bit too powerful. We've also tweaked the point costs of aircraft, like how the costs of aircraft are calculated. So I think they are actually a little bit more expensive now. And we're also tweaked lock-on, which actually has been renamed to unstoppable. So now you can also use it on melee weapons, actually, if you're making a custom weapon. And basically, unstoppable now ignores negative modifiers on your weapon. It ignores positive modifiers on the enemy, and it ignores and its wounds cannot be ignored. So basically, it's become more versatile since you don't really. Since now aircraft doesn't have the -1 to hit anymore, it's not as necessary to have lock on to attack aircraft. So we renamed to unstoppable, and now those weapons are more usable against different types of targets. So now you can use them against targets that are in cover. You can use them against targets that have stealth. You can use them against targets that have shrouded, and stuff like that. 2 more things. So we have removed advanced tactics from the game. Advanced tactics is basically that rule that pick another unit and that unit gets to move 6 inches. It kind of just breaks the flow of the game. And it basically really created this dichotomy where it was like, okay, some armies have it and they're just way more powerful than others, and some armies don't have it and they're just disadvantaged. So we just removed it from the game. Those rules are usually replaced with, for example, a fast aura. So, okay, you cannot give another unit a 6-inch move, but you can give your unit fast, and so it's a movement rule. Finally, we are tweaking swarms. Swarms now have quality 5 up. They don't have fearless anymore, and they don't have ambush anymore. Basically, the idea is so right now swarms are super cheap. super powerful. They can kind of do everything. And again, it kind of created this situation where it's like, if your army has access to swarms, great. You can just use them as little like point fillers, and then win the game at the end because you block stuff. And if you don't have swarms, you're just at a disadvantage. And so we just tweaked swarms a little bit so that they still maintain their purpose, but they are not so abusable. All right, so that's about balance. Oh yeah, one final thing is so I spoke about how every army gets their own army-wide special rule, which again already now many armies have. It's just being given to more armies. One of the important things here is that we've decided to tweak these army-wide special rules so that almost all of them have some sort of condition. So they're not just like, hey, you just get a bonus and good luck. It's more like, hey, you get a bonus if you're within 6 inches of a friendly unit, or you get a bonus on a roll of 6, or you get a bonus if this happens. The idea basically is that we wanted to kind of have, we don't want it just to be a surefire thing. We want you to kind of have to play with your army and around your rules, and have something interesting there. And also, these rules kind of slightly nudge you towards certain play styles. They don't, of course, force you down any particular road, so you can still play however you want. But they kind of nudge you like, hey, maybe with this army you kind of want to keep units a bit more together. Maybe with this army you want to shoot at range. Maybe with this army you want to do this. And again, it leads to this whole thing where armies feel a little bit more distinct from each other. This means that many of the current army-wide special rules that were just like, hey, you just get stealth, oh, you just get fast, or you just get furious, right? Those have been changed, which of course, if you look at it on the surface, you might think like, oh, my army is being nerfed. But no, don't worry. It's being rebalanced so that every army has some sort of condition. And also, it means that their cost is lower. So, I don't know, robot legions, they're losing the robot rule, which makes them cheaper, which now means you can bring more robots, more upgrades, more vehicles, more weapons, and all that stuff. Okay, try to speed run through this. I think we kind of managed. What do we need to know? The beta will go live at the end of the stream. And it will go live. Well, yeah, it will be just accessible via a link. Age of Fantasy beta is coming next Monday, and we're probably going to have exactly a stream like this next Monday. And then the full release of v3.5 will be in at the end of October, so not at the end of September anymore. All right, I think that's it. All right. I will. Okay. So the way that we're going to do this is I am going to. Hold on. I am going to share my screen. Okay. This should work now. Yes. Oh, did everything block? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh no, what is happening? Hold on, sorry, everything is kind of blocked on my screen. And oh sorry, I'm trying to fix this thing here. I'm not even sure if I'm still live. Fuck, what is happening? Okay. should be back now. Fuck. Ah, God. Always like this, isn't it? Sorry, everyone. I don't know what's going on, but the software has stopped working for me. Am I back? All right. I don't know if I'm back. I don't know if I'm back. I don't know if everybody can see me. Every time I open the software, everything is blocked. So I am unable to do anything. Sorry, everyone. So I guess you guys can see me, but for me, the whole thing is blocked. So I'm unable to share my screen. I'm unable to access the chat. I'm unable to do literally anything on this page. And every time I rejoin the stream, it all freezes. So I think I think